Welcome back to yet another week of the Waiver Wire picks. We're up to week 4 now. We're rolling through these things. The season's flying by. I'm Jason Beckner. You can find me on Twitter at JRBecks. I'm joined here by Dapscout, or JP, as his mother likes to call him.
Sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. If this is your first time joining us, this is a weekly video that comes out. We're going to run through about 5 or 6 guys that you can be found on your waiver wire. We also have an accompanying article that's got 20 plus names that you can probably, look to add off your waiver wire. You can get that over at fantasy6pack.net. To get access to that article, you're going to need to join one of our award-winning plans. That's going to be at fantasy6pack.net/plans. You're going to get access to award-winning rankings. We have a Discord, all sorts of great content over there if you become a member at our website. But other than that, I think that takes care of most of the business part. Let's get right into these waiver wire names this week. Unless you have something to add.
Other than I heard you about this close to say you're the host. I thought that was, I thought you were going to be like, yeah, Jason Beckner, I'm the host of the Drive-By Waiver.
I almost thought it. And I was like, should I call myself a co-host or let's just roll without
No, you know what, man? You know what? You could be a host. You could be a co-host. I am open to all things as long as we help people that watch this get wins and beat their opponents. That's all I care about.
Yeah, me too. So let's get into it right away. First off, with I think one of the biggest names on the waiver wire going into this week, there was speculation that he was going to be added to the rotation last weekend, and then sure enough, it came to fruition. He's the A's third-ranked prospect. He made his debut this week. Looked pretty dominant in his first start. 4 innings, or 4 and a third, 2 runs, 4 hits, 5 Ks, only 1 walk. He's on the A's, so the rotation spot's there for him. This is not a shot at your A's, but there's not much in that rotation.
Hey, you're right.
He should be, he's lining up right now for 2 start this week, coming up against the Reds and the Angels. Not the weakest of offenses, but aside from just next week being a 2-start week, I think this is a guy that you should be looking to add in most of your leagues. What do you think?
So I know that pre-show we were talking about, who from the A's we were going to spotlight. I know that there was some talk about the Oakland Possum as our spotlight of the week. And then, of course, Mason Miller goes out and it's just Mason Miller dominant. There was a fantastic article. I love reading all these different things. And, of course, I always want to give credit to where credit's due. Melissa Lockhart with The Athletic wrote this incredible write-up about Mason Miller. And it really comes down to the fact that he's got 3 pitches and his fastball is averaging 100 miles an hour. I mean, that's just insanity, right? Because typically, we were always like, oh yeah, look, he hit triple digits or he averaging 100 miles an hour. That's crazy. And then on top of that, you have a 4-seam fastball, a cut fastball, and a slider. Now, for those people that don't understand the difference between a 4-seam fastball and a cut fastball, right? A 4-seam is going to be kind of very straight typically. I mean, there's going to be some movement while your cut fastball is going to look the same as the other fastball, but then it's of course going to cut. It's going to, have some type of movement to it as well. So the fact that he's able to kind of have 3 pitches, especially that, slider that's going to keep people honest as well, but that cut and that 4-seam, which is going to look the same probably coming out of his hand, but then of course going to have some type of movement late. And then at that speed, I mean, that is just scary good. So some other kind of really interesting pieces of this, right? Other than, of course, just the amazing strikeouts, is his walk percentage. He's averaging 2 walks per 9, which is incredibly low for that amount of speed. We've seen, the Randy Johnsons of the world. Again, I'm not saying he's Randy Johnson, but the Randy Johnsons of the world, the, Chapmans of the world, when they come out and they're throwing that hard, have no idea where that ball's going. In fact, that's kind of why they're getting strikeouts, because when you're in the batter's box, it's super uncomfortable because you don't know if that 100-mile-an-hour fastball is coming to your head. The fact that he's doing this with control is just astounding, especially, of course, at his age. You need to pick him up. Don't even watch the rest of the video. Pause it right now. Go pick him up, and then come back and watch the rest of this. It's just it's an absolute no-brainer. You need to. Now, the other part, just real quick. He's in Oakland Coliseum, at least until the end of the season, and then they move to Vegas.
Yeah,
still heard. Right. Still heard about that. And that is a pitcher's ballpark. So at home, Oakland, automatic, start. At Cincinnati, if he's playing Cincinnati at home, especially not at the Great America Ballpark, then again, automatic start. But right now, the way he's pitching, he's a start everywhere except Colorado. So yes, go out, go get him.
Yeah, I mean, some people, some reserves about, maybe him not getting a lot of the workload. But hey, look, he's
Yeah.
going to get, if anything, they're going to limit the amount of starts he's getting. He's going to get the starts. He's going to go at least 5 innings if he can.
Right.
He may not contribute wins, but the ratios and the Ks are going to be there. So yeah, absolutely go pick him up. I'm going to go on to our next guy here, who's Jonah Heim, the catcher of the Texas Rangers, who's just hotter than a pistol right now.
Hotter than a pistol.
Hotter
Wow.
than a pistol. Yeah.
Is that because he's in Texas? Is that because he's in Texas?
Oh,
He had
yeah.
to be the pistol. Okay. All right.
Little 45s.
No, of course. You know what? I commend you. That was amazing. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mess up your flow, but that was awesome.
Yeah. I threw that on a whim too. I didn't even have that queued up or anything.
Wow. That's why I know you're a natural. This is amazing. Right now, like I would put you at 80 grade as a prospect. This is phenomenal. I'm sorry, just watching you work is just great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, in his last 7 games, he's slashing 375, 44, and he's slugging 792. 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, 7 runs. That includes a 3-run bomb yesterday on Friday. I mean, catcher right now it always has been just an abysmal position. There's just a void after like the top 3 guys. So if for some reason he's on your waiver, you absolutely need to be looking to add Jonah Heim because he's here to stay. I don't think this is just like some streaky week. I mean, this guy's he's been a great hitter throughout the minors. So I mean, if he's somehow available on your waiver, you absolutely need to grab him. What do you think?
Yeah, so going from an Oakland A to a guy that should still be with the Oakland A's, we traded him to the Rangers. I'm sorry, yes, I call the Oakland A's we. I hurt pain. So here's the thing about catchers, right? Is that we always are like, oh, he's a bat first catcher, and he might not stick behind the plate. The part that you highlighted there, right? And of course, for fantasy, we're like, wow, yeah, he just hit another home run, and those numbers that you just spit out are video game-esque. I mean, that's what you get when you put it on easy mode on video games. But the other part that we should highlight is he's sticking behind the plate. He's throwing runners out. The game last night, he threw another runner out. I mean, he's showing amazing poise behind the plate, and his ability to, of course, throw runners out is going to help him stick back there. His defense is great. So all those kind of pieces really lead me to believe he's going to be able to stay back there as catcher. The other part of this, right, is he's not striking out that much. I mean, 21% is not, is not nothing, but it's way lower than what we're expecting, especially for somebody hitting many home runs as he's doing. The only thing, and I know I sound like a broken record because I believe this with catchers, right, is how he's going to last behind the plate. Is he going to be catching that often? Are they going to be able to give him enough breaks and those types of things? Where is he going to be at the All-Star break? I am hoping desperately to see this kid be able to stay back there and just stay hot. But we've seen with catchers that injuries happen, foul balls, foul tips, and those types of things, hitting hands. And of course, what we've seen with some really bad sliding earlier, collisions still happening at home plate. So there's always that problem. But as we always also say, you can't play scared in fantasy, right? Go out, go get him. You need to stick him in your lineup and, run it as long as you can. But what I'm seeing and what we've seen is something that he's shown up in the minors. But this hot streak is amazing. You need to get him in your lineup and just ride it as long as you can. Go get him. I mean, just amazing, especially for a catcher position, right? Where Rutschman was kind of in a tier of his own. I'm not saying he's anywhere near Rutschman, of course, but those numbers are phenomenal. Just great.
Yeah, he should, he's probably better than 80% of the catchers on people's rosters right now. So he should be for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, the masses have spoken and they said, hey, JP and Jason, they only talk about hitting. Where's the pitcher? So you know what? We're going to keep rolling with some pitchers. Next guy we're going to talk about is Kyle Bradish, starting pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles. And I know this is somebody that you took a liking to in this offseason, which I'll let you talk about here in a minute. But he came off the IL this last week. He made his second start of the season. He got hurt in his first start. He pitched 6 innings, no runs, 8 Ks to 2 walks. He's another 2-star pitcher this week as well. He starts against Boston at home and Detroit on the road. Now, Boston is a little bit up there in terms of team run score. I think they're like top 4. So there may be a little bit of reserve there, but Detroit on the road all day. I mean, I'm willing to take that gamble if I'm looking for a 2-star pitcher this week. He should be one of the top available on the waiver. Why don't you go ahead and let me know what you think about Kyle Bradish? Not just for this week, but also for going forward.
Sure. So, I mean, right now, the Orioles are, from a pitching perspective, are on a hot streak. They haven't allowed a run in 26 consecutive innings. The other part here in going from, again, Oakland Coliseum, where we were talking about kind of the, home run suppressing kind of Coliseum, to, again, the reason why you're kind of like, oh, do I want a Orioles hitter? Not because they're not great, but because, again, their ballpark, especially the left field, suppresses those home runs. This is great for a pitcher. But Bradish is somebody that I was targeting in the offseason, like you mentioned, and thank you so much for remembering for my, one thing I did right. But we're looking at a guy who throws basically the kitchen sink, right? A fastball, curveball, slider, sinker, can change up, and all of those things allows a pitcher, especially when he's able to locate it and keep hitters off balance. Some things that I really love to see. The other thing too is, I was seeing a lot of kind of movement on his pitches, especially in him being called out in a lot of different places. He's limiting barrels. His barrel percentage is almost down 3 points. The other areas too is that, he's giving a lot of uncomfortable at bats where the launch angle, which of course, right, if you have a upward angle, you can have pop flies, but you can also have home runs, is negative at the moment, right? So he's hitting a lot of ground balls, and people in the defense behind him has been great, right? So you're getting a pitcher that is limiting contact. He's striking people out, which is, of course, what we all want, especially if you're a strikeout category. And he's in a home park that is, not Colorado, first off, but secondly, is not going to allow home runs. It's just a recipe for just success, at least in my book. So I think you grab him, you put him in your lineup as much as possible, especially when he's playing at home. And he's going to be cheap. What was his availability that we saw? I think it was something still way too low.
Yeah.
It's like
20% or something like that.
Yeah, right. And so that's just ridiculous. So yeah, Kyle Bradish, it was definitely a target of ours. We talked about him multiple times during the offseason. Go get him and start him with, probably reckless abandon, at least for right now, but definitely anytime he's playing at home.
Yeah, and then I think when I was referring to it, wasn't he one of the guys that went to Driveline in the offseason?
Thank you. Yeah, yes.
That's what I'm referring to.
I know you were, but I just wanted you to, I didn't want to toot my own horn too much, but yes. So we have, I had a Twitter, stream there that basically was talking about all these different players that went to Driveline. And what we've seen with hitters and with pitchers that have gone to Driveline is not only working on a new pitch, if they add a cutter or something of that nature, but also adding a different ability to locate the pitch better or release the pitch better. So those are the types of things we wanted to identify in the offseason. So we had a long Twitter thread about all these various pitchers and hitters, and we're going to continuously monitor them throughout the offseason. But so far, we've seen some fantastic returns. We had this just not really well-known hitter, what was his name? Mookie Betts, who also went to Driveline. So we identified, I'm kidding. So yeah, of course, Mookie Betts is going to be amazing. But some of the other ones, you should check out the Twitter thread. Definitely shows up. And Kyle Bradish was definitely on top of there. So yes, I'm very thankful for you calling that out. But yeah, we're going to continue to update those. And we're going to hopefully at some point talk to Driveline themselves to kind of find out and kind of see if, what we're doing and what we're seeing is a trend that we should be catching every offseason. As we like to say, he went to Driveline. Yeah. So something we want to definitely look here moving forward. But yes, seeing Kyle Bradish kind of invest in himself and go to the Driveline and then of course come out hot. There's some correlation there. So definitely something I want to look at as the season progresses.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump to our next guy. It's going to be Jack Suwinski, the outfielder of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who himself has a pirate name. I feel like this kind of sounds like a
Suwinski.
Captain Jack Suwinski. But one of the reasons the Pirates are off to a 14-7 start with a 22 run differential is obviously the offense. Who saw this coming, right? Jack's a big part of it. He's slashing 263, 375, slugging 684, 5 home runs, 10 RBIs. He's only got a 17% walk rate. 4 of those home runs have come in the last 4 days, including a 2 home run game. this I think is one of those outliers that nobody saw coming. So there's a reason that he's on your waiver wire, but I don't think that should be for much longer because he's swinging a hot bat and he's kind of I don't think it's that quite of a streak. So what do you think about Captain Jack Suwinski?
Yeah. So a couple things. As you know from all the hate mail we got from the Pirates after our NL previews this offseason, we missed the boat on this one. I missed it. I never would put you in the same boat as me, especially with Captain Jack Suwinski coming after us in his Pirate boat. But I didn't see any possibility of, I was like, where are these runs going to come from other than Reynolds? I wasn't thinking there's going to be any kind of things here. And of course, because of that, they decided, hey, we're going to go off the hottest start possible and make you guys look like idiots, which is totally fine. And that's why I love the Major League Baseball so much, because you have to apologize so much. So on the Pirates Prospect website, which is great, I like to go to all these different websites that kind of really dive down into the players. Anthony Murphy and Tim Williams wrote a great article there, kind of underlined why is Jack Suwinski doing so good. And this is a great quote from that article that they wrote. Please check out piratesprospect.com. Suwinski is currently the 96th percentile when it comes to chase rate for the season. But on the flip side, his whiff rate is still among the league's worst at 13%, which means that, he's not chasing pitches out of the zone, but he's still missing pitches that he should hit. So even though he's having this hot start, he has a huge area that he could still improve upon. So there's a wide range of outcomes that could still happen with Jack, right? And of Jack, because we go way back, sorry, Suwinski, if the fact that he's not chasing is great, right? We love to see that, lead eye, but the fact that he's not hitting the ball when he swings at it is not good either. But if he could actually make contact, which he's shown when he makes contact, it's, phenomenal. Yep. So So what's going to happen? Something's got to give here. Either he's just going to go crazy and just be able to start hitting those balls that he's missing, or something's going to catch up and he's going to continue to miss those balls and the numbers are going to start dropping down. One of my favorite things to do when people are on a hot streak, especially early in the season, is check out the Baseball Savant page. His Baseball Savant page is fire engine red almost everywhere, except, of course, the whiff percentage, which we alluded to here a second ago. His average velocity, 95 percentile, barrel percentage, 100 percentile. I mean, very rarely do I see 100 percentile. Expected slugging percentage, 100 percentile. I'm sorry, I get excited when I start seeing stuff like that. But his whiff percentage is 15%. It's on the wrong side. So 15% meaning he's in the low 15% of the whiff percentage of the overall hitters. The other part as well is he's a pull hitter. When you look at his spray chart, it's almost, except for this one all the way to the left, which I don't know if he just shanked the ball or something and hit a home run, but all the other big hits are to the right. So again, I hope he can make adjustments. It's super exciting what's going on in Pittsburgh. I'm always about small market teams because I'm an Oakland A's fan, and I want to see it continue. This is one of those where I'm like, hey, go pick him up, ride the hot streak. As soon as you start seeing anything that kind of shows you, that 3-4 games, if they start getting cold, I might drop him right away.
Yeah, I agree.
But I really hope this continues because there's nothing I love more than this kind of the surprise, thing. But there's a lot that can go wrong here very easily with this profile.
Yeah, I think one of the things about fantasy baseball is trying to find those hot streaks and riding those hot streaks when you can. So absolutely grab Jack Suwinski, ride this hot streak while you can.
Just real quick not to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but I really like to look at fantasy baseball as two relationships that you want to have. You want to have your long-term relationships, right? You want to have your studs, but you also need to have a lot of short-term dating relationships that you have out there as well. People that you only have for 1 or 2 weeks. And that is very important. You cannot stay in a committed relationship too long with the wrong player. As soon as it starts going bad, especially with people like this one, where they don't have a long track record or there's a lot of stats that show underlying issues, you can't be committed to it too long. You have to be ready to drop them and go grab the next waiver wire, which would mean that you'd have to watch more of these videos. But other than that, I just want to make sure you understand that, all these people out there, especially doing, just season-long leagues, that you got to be able to just keep turning over that thing. Have a foundation of good players, the Adley Rushmans of the world and things of that nature, the Reynolds. But, these types of players are going to happen every month, every week. And you just got to be able to keep on moving and pivoting.
That's right. Come for the waiver wire advice, stay for the relationship advice.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, right? So, please let me know if somebody out there, one of your hitters, is giving you problems. We're here to help.
All right, the next guy we're going to talk about is Jake Burger, third baseman for the White Sox. Since being promoted on April 5th, he's batting .308, 5 home runs, 10 RBIs. Kind of seems like every time he's in the lineup, he just hits, right? So, I'm not sure if once Makata gets healthy and comes back, I'm not sure they're going to be able to take him out of this lineup. I think the plate appearances will be there. I think similar to Jake Suwinski, this is one of those hospitals that you kind of need to jump on. I don't know if we're going to see quite this. The high average, I think, is what's a little bit more concerning to me. The power is going to be there. He's always been, touted as a power guy, even coming out of college. So the power numbers will be there. I think we just got to watch the bat to ball skills going forward. But what do you think about Jake Burger going forward?
Well, again, I'm a big StatCast guy, right? Sorry, did a little StatCast dance. Nice. But the hardest hit balls this season, I know everybody had this lineup here. So the top three, Matt Olson, 118.6 miles per hour. And in second place, Jake Burger at 118.2. And below that, Giancarlo Stanton. We expected that one on the bottom. Matt Olson, yeah, I expected him probably in the mix, but Burger, come on. Again, this goes back to the Pirates thing, right? I didn't see this coming at all. Burger's always kind of been a prospect to watch, somebody to be there. And the reason why a lot of people maybe have not heard his name or, heard his name and then it kind of disappeared is he's been hurt at the absolute worst times. He tore his Achilles tendon back in Cactus League play and missed all of 2019.
Yep.
And then he had 2020, of course, was the pandemic canceling minor league play. And so there was always this thing of his timing was just terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if this is really kind of his coming out party. Now, when you look at, again, when we go back to some of his StatCast numbers, his max exit velocity has always been phenomenal. The last 2 years, before this year, it was 115 miles an hour and 114 miles an hour. This year, he, of course, taking up another notch, was 118. We're seeing a lot of things there that show some great, potential there. And again, you're hitting the sweet spot. I'm not going to give you any of those kind of numbers because these numbers are just, if he ever kept these are Babe Ruth-esque. Right. But the things that would have to change, right, are the following. Well, first off, the good news, right? He's doubled his walk rate. That's great, right? He was like 5% last year. He's at 10% this year, but he's still at 30% Ks. Now, if you're hitting the ball as hard as he is when he actually makes contact, great. You could probably get away with 30%. That's not Gallo-esque yet, right? We could still sustain a pretty good, healthy relationship with the slugger at 30%. But if that comes down another 5 points and he can keep the 10% walk rate, watch out. But again, yes, this is definitely one of those people that you pick up, see how long he can last, but they are going to find out bats for him. With the White Sox struggling out of the gate, this is one of those guys that's giving them kind of the only bright spot, really carrying the team in a lot of aspects. So I expect them to give him at bats for as long as he's hot. But let's see how long this lasts. If any of these underlying numbers kind of change a little bit, if the K rate comes down, and the walk rate just doesn't need to change, 10% is great. Then I might be long term on Burger. I don't know. Like this one here is I'm almost feeling like I might be buying him for a little bit longer. We might have a third or fourth date. I don't know. But this might be a long term relationship. I'm feeling a lot of Burger happiness right now.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go ahead and jump to our next guy here. It's going to be Peyton Battenfield, starting pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians. It's one of these arms that the Guardians just continue to turn out in their pitching development. But he's now made 2 starts this season. He's only given up 1 run in each of those starts. He's not a huge strikeout guy, but the control is good. It seems like that's kind of one of the big things that Cleveland likes to hammer home is the control. He's an under 2 walk per 9 guy. His next start comes against the Red Sox. We talked about earlier with Bradish. They're a top 4 in runs scored as a team, but the I would add him. The only thing that worries me about Battenfield is how many turns is he going to continue to get. We got so many arms in that development or in that minor league that are chomping at the bit to come up.
Right.
Any little bit of falter from Peyton Battenfield, he may be optioned back to AAA. But what are your outlooks on Battenfield going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If you would have asked me in the offseason who's the first minor league pitcher to be called up for the Guardians, I didn't say Indians. Thank you. The Guardians, I would have said Logan Allen. That would have been my absolute first pick off the top of my head. So seeing Battenfield come up, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't too familiar with him, and really kind of diving deep, I definitely saw a lot of reasons. Of course, first off, the Guardians know what they're doing when it comes to pitching. Let's just hands down, like you just said, right? It's the Guardians; they're going to figure it out. When you kind of dive a little bit deeper into his numbers, you see a phenomenal pitcher that starts and ends with his cutter. His cutter is his go-to pitch. And I don't know if you know this, but there's this guy named Mariano Rivera. He had a great cutter too. But no, I'm just kidding. This is right. I'm kidding about the fact that Battenfield and Mariano Rivera should be in the same sentence. But the big thing that concerns me with Battenfield is his K rate. He's only K'ing, and this has been consistent. So it's not like just started when he was in the majors, but last year, it was at 6. So about 6-ish Ks per 9. Right now he's at that now, right? He's at 6.75. So, right around 7. So it's not that much of a difference. If you're not, striking out batters, especially major league hitters, you better be limiting the amount of hard hit rate on them. And we've seen a lot of times where, especially early on, pitchers that aren't striking out a lot of batters can get into problems, right? They can have a really bad start where they aren't locating correctly, or something's off, that one of their pitches they're not having a feel for. So a lot of things have to go right if you're not striking people out. I'm not saying that you can't live there, but you have to watch out. And especially if suddenly the defense behind you gives way. That's another issue that you might have to have, because you're really relying on your defense. If you're giving contact up, people behind you have to be able to glove it up and throw it away. Now, he also has something else that's pretty unsustainable, right? 81% left on base. That's another number that's incredibly high. Now,
especially for someone who doesn't strike guys out.
Exactly, right? And again, it's another relying on your defense. So batting average of balls in play, again, 207. But again, you're allowing traffic. There's a lot of things there that concern me. I would grab him probably if I need that 4th, 5th starter, but I'm very tentative about it. The thing is that pitching has been so much better than hitting. I've had problems finding hitting versus pitching. But again, the main thing here is I'm not an expert. So I trust Cleveland. If Cleveland calls him up and if he stays in the rotation, I'm going to trust Cleveland over myself any day of the week when it comes to being pitching experts. So for no other reason than Cleveland Indians have called him up, and they are the ones that have, pretty much been with them since Tampa Bay. It looks like, Tampa Bay then sent them to Cleveland. I would trust the Guardians with their pitching prospects and have them for that reason. But there's a lot of numbers here I don't like.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just nothing more than a spot start or a streamer.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's going to go ahead and wrap up this week 4 of the Waiver Wire show. Go ahead and jump over to our website, 96back.net. You can check out that article. And then other than that, we'll see you next week.
Sounds great.